I still remember the day I was cleaning under my son Emma's bed and found a journal tucked between the wall and the mattress. When I picked it up, it slipped open, and there was my name, underlined 3 times, with the words "I hate her" written in huge, angry letters. I should have closed it right then, but I didn't. I'm not proud of that. Emma had been different for months, quieter, distant, spending hours alone in her room. I thought it was normal teenage stuff, but my husband kept insisting something deeper was going on. The early pages were typical: school stress, friendship drama, annoyances with teachers. Then I reached the entries about cutting, how she hid it where no one would notice, how the pain helped when everything inside felt too heavy. My hands shook as I read. I found pages where she wrote about death, wondering if anyone would really miss her, writing that her dad might cry, but I would probably be relieved. There was a poem about disappearing, about being a ghost in her own home, about screaming without making a sound. I recognized some of the lines from those sad songs she always played behind closed doors. Then came the part that shattered me. Last year, my brother had been diagnosed with a serious illness. I'd thrown myself into caring for him, driving him to appointments, helping with his kids, cooking meals. I believed I was balancing everything, but through Emma's eyes, I had vanished. Entry after entry described the soccer games I missed, how I was always tired, how I asked about my brother constantly, but never about her day. The worst page was about her birthday. I had promised to be home for dinner, but my brother had a sudden medical complication. I stayed at the hospital and didn't even call. Emma wrote, "Mom has a new child now. She doesn't need me anymore." She described sitting alone at the table with a birthday cake, checking her phone every few minutes, eventually blowing out the candles by herself at midnight. I put the journal back exactly where I found it, went to my room, and cried until I couldn't breathe. That night, I told my husband we needed to talk. I didn't tell him about the journal, only that I realized how much I'd been neglecting our daughter. We rearranged everything. He took over part of my brother's care. He looked almost relieved, like he'd been waiting for me to see what he saw. He just hugged me and said, "Thank you. I was afraid we were losing her." The next day, I picked Emma up from school and took her out to lunch. She was suspicious. When I gently asked about the cuts on her arm, she quickly pulled down her sleeve and said it was the cat. I didn't push. Instead, I told her how much I missed spending time with her, that I was sorry I had been so wrapped up in my brother's illness, and that she would always come first. She asked why I was telling her all this. I simply said that sometimes life wakes us up to what really matters. She didn't say much, but when I dropped her off at school afterward, she hugged me for the first time in months. After that, I kept my promises. I went to her games. I saved medical updates for after she went to bed. We started having weekly mother-daughter days that nothing was allowed to interrupt. I found her favorite cake recipe and surprised her with it one evening, a do-over of her birthday. She looked at me strangely at first, then smiled, a real smile. Even her dad noticed the changes. He mentioned one night that he could hear her laughing again. She began playing music with her door open instead of hiding in silence. 3 months later, I walked into her room and found her journal lying open on the bed. I think she left it that way on purpose. The newest entry said, "Mom's back." I don't know what changed, but I'm glad. I missed her. On another page, she had crossed out her old poem and replaced it with one about being seen, about someone fighting for you even when you've stopped fighting for yourself. She never asked if I had read her journal. I never confessed. But sometimes I think she knows. She's 20 now, away at university. Last week she called just to check on me. Before hanging up, she said, "Thanks for fighting for me back then, Mom." I'm still not sure what she meant exactly, but I know how close I came to losing her. Not to death, but to the slow, quiet loss that comes from neglect. Finding that journal changed everything. It might have saved her life. It definitely saved our relationship. My brother sometimes asks how I knew something was wrong with Emma. I tell him a mother just knows. But the truth is I almost didn't. I almost missed everything, and that thought still terrifies me.